seen what love looks like. I've seen its beauty when it's alive.
All right, keyframe number 9. Now, this one I thought was actually going to be the hardest of all the keyframes. I've got an alien character coming in here that I haven't designed yet. Got a dramatic scene between the robot wife and pig, and we're actually seeing maybe a little more of the laboratory than we've seen before. So tricky, and yet it came out relatively smooth and easy, and was actually pretty enjoyable to do. I think that if I were describing this to someone afterwards, I might be dramatic and say that, well, I felt inspired, the muse came by and made this easy. But actually, it's really just a weird combination of you're focused, you've drawn things like this before, you've done your research right, you have some great reference that you've processed so you can actually forget about it and perform it. You take a wild gamble on a design for an alien creature, and it works. At least works well enough for this, and has potential to be something really weird and wonderful. So let's just talk about this frame and what was in my head before I drew it. I knew that this is where Pig opens his eyes, and there's a shocking scene of an alien looming over top of the perfect woman that he's created. And nighttime. Last time he saw her before he passed out, she was impaled on the railings below. He took her back up, tried to fix her. So and then he passed out. So this is him, not sure if he's dreaming this or not. The alien, I wanted there to be some connection between the alien and the more than perfect robot wife that he's made. Because he actually, as I say, kind of turned her into a superpowered being. So he inadvertently made something that was similar to the creature, the alien that came to find her. And I didn't realize when I drew it, as you can see from this, it looks like they might almost be having sex. So I'm going to have to move that. But when I was drawing it, it wasn't my intent, and I didn't even see it until, I think, a few minutes from now. Again, once I put them in there as the center of interest, where your eye's going to go, I have Pig's arm reaching out to point you back towards it. And for the alien, well, I mean, we can reach for certain archetypes like angels and so on. I know I wanted him to be human, so that it was, in a way, a rival threat for the attention and the heart of this beautiful new creation. And it also occurred to me that perhaps it's not really that shape at all. I mean, it's an alien entity that decided to come down into the human world, and so as not to frighten us, it decided to do the equivalent of putting on a human mask, or in this case, a human body. But their way of doing the mask might be to just put enough there that they think will give the impression of that. So I made him out of lots of little ribbons of whatever it is, ectoplasm or alien matter or reformed matter. And perhaps there's lots of the wings could be almost like tendrils, and the tendrils float around the alien as if it just assumes that's part of a human being too, that you can see the senses. And that would make him feel very unusual, and also give just a hint to that kind of War of the Worlds alien with the tentacles and all that kind of stuff. So you can tell from me adding tone this early in the drawing, I'm actually pretty comfortable with where the elements are. And I think it's round about now that I begin to realize it looks like they're having sex. So, and that would be fine, except that's not what I intended here. So what to do about that, right? I've got my composition, and I'm going to alter a major element. Well, one of them has to stay there. And, it'd look weird if the alien was there and she was somewhere else in the room. So I think I'm going to leave her and maybe move the alien. But the emotion was right in the picture. So I'm actually, as I'm drawing this, feeling very happy, very confident that I know what I'm doing. It was a big choice at the beginning whether to show Pig's face or not. So another option would have been to have him facing towards us and looking back kind of over his shoulder. Notice when I'm revising the position of the alien, I think I move him back and flip her around the other way, but kind of keep her head in the center of interest where it was. And notice I take the tone off because I want to go back to it just as pure design. Where is your eye? How is it moving? What is happening here? What is the rest of that alien? How do they both fit on the same ground plane? What is the ground plane? Because as you've seen in the other images, haven't really worked out the lab yet because it doesn't matter. To tell the story moment, all that matters is that they're in some sort of attic room and there's a window and that everything points to where I need you to look. So we're pointing back towards the robot wife reclining on the floor and the alien coming down to gently lift her in his arms and take her away. Also, outside the window, I need to have the UFO that you saw earlier on hovering up in the sky. I'm just going to use exactly the same angle and everything. So for now, it's almost like the symbol of that UFO reappears and we know another abduction is about to take place. And the lighting, fairly dramatic. I know I want some pretty strong shadows, but also allow things to fall off into darkness so that, it's a lot of mystery, a little bit of film noir going on. One of the wonderful things about black and white film is that, a dark side of a character will often be indistinguishable from the shadow it's casting. And so you won't actually see the edge of things. And your mind would have to reach into that darkness and create that line. And the moment you, the viewer, has to create anything, it's pretty powerful because it's actually your mind at work completing the image. You can do that in stories too, where you entice the reader to come in and actually have to supply the rest of the details of what someone could look like or what the environment would look like. A lot of the things in books are not described. There are telling details again, hints that will let you conjure the picture of what it's supposed to be. And like I say, it's super powerful, and it's why we all end up with our own version of what something is. So I am thinking out the room right now, trying to pick up on some elements that I may have had in some of the other keyframes. Remember, there was a big curve before from that original shot where he starts building his robot wife. So I know that's in there. Don't know whether I'm going to use it or not. Definitely going to throw the light from that window. And again, by the way, this is theatrical lighting, maybe even illustrator's lighting. For me, it doesn't really have to make sense. It has to sort of feel like it makes sense. But really, its whole purpose, just as with the design, is there to lead your eye in a very specific order across the page. And at the very end, notice that I know the alien's going to have a sort of human look to him, and he's going to be made up of ribbons. Haven't figured out what those tendrils, those wing-like tendrils, are going to be floating around him. Saving that for the very end, because in some ways, that's the creature design, right? And I save it to the very end because I want the picture to work without that, right? And no matter what he looks like, I want to know that these characters are going to read really, really clearly. And then I can take him more into fantasy land and see how much of the human I can still leave in there. Broken shards of glass are always really, really fun, just to add an element of danger and mystery in there. Mist coming up off the ground. Why is there mist on a snowy day? Who knows? Who cares? It just, it adds to the atmosphere. And also, it's possible that this is all just a big dream. This is in his head, that when he wakes up, she's simply not there. That's probably not what happened, but it's nice at this point. If we're actually, our viewpoint is the same as the main characters, and we can be wondering whether this actually is really happening or not. And that adds to the dreamlike weirdness of the whole moment that's going on here. Again, hinted at some things in the back that might be part of the lab. Maybe a staircase going up, maybe a little area over there where there's tools or a fireplace that could be out. I have a bunch of reference and sketches that I've done of different environments. One was an old power plant. One was an old Rembrandt painting of some sort of strange alchemist in his lab. Just a bunch of things. Anyway, I've got enough of it in there now that I kind of can move on to that final phase, which is the alien. And for this, I was remembering something I saw at Gnomon Workshop last time I was down there, or rather Gnomon School. They were showing me the VR glasses and the drawings that people have been doing in 3D space. And I was just amazed by it all. These lines that would move and curl and overlap each other and just be these incredible 3D calligraphies. And I thought, oh, how fun would that be to literally have the wings become these calligraphic tendrils that are swirling around and maybe even coming off and forming his body. So really all he is these tendrils. It's just that some of them happen to form a human shape. That felt pretty alien to me. And lo and behold, I got lucky that it actually played out the way I had imagined it. And so I was pretty happy with the alien. And like I say, this came together a lot quicker than I expected to do. Just as the last keyframe took forever because I couldn't quite get that contrast of her expression with his desperation. And had to hunt, had to work. And so keep that in mind, right? This is a course on creativity. Where does your creativity come from? And it comes from those elements clicking and working together. It comes from getting out of your own way and just dreaming. Again, if I had to construct all of this the way my mind works, I would never get to this stage this quick. I would be thinking far more about things that weren't important to me to make this picture than I needed to. The thing about creativity that I mentioned at the beginning is you have to learn to be true to you and who you are and how you work, what your triggers are, what triggers your imagination, what prompts those dreams inside you. And for me, it's always emotion and it's always a moment of story. And then that just suddenly ideas fill up inside my head. People ask me who my earliest influences are and expecting me to name artists. And actually, almost all of my early influences are writers. My current influences are writers because I read stories and my head starts to fill up with those images that I'm supplying that they hinted at. And then I have to draw them down before my head blows up. So I was going to list some of the writers, people like Ray Bradbury and Frank Herbert, writing Dune, Ursula Le Guin, Wizard of Earthsea, and so many since then. A short story writer called John Collier, who I think is amazing, one of the best short story writers ever. I need story. So part of my process is to always focus back on story over construction. But keep in mind that, I'm a graduate from Glasgow School of Art in design. And so maybe I've learned my design fundamentals so deeply that I don't really think about them that much. I think it's important to learn it all and then just have it there as body language. And it's sort of a subconscious guideline. Anyway, I bump up my tones at the end, add my blue filter, and keyframe number 9 is ready to go.